Gradually, the position in the hearts of the people of the world became uncertain. Although the three families were competing in the game, in reality, none could overpower the others. It might as well be better to openly maintain the three great workshops competition, so that other blacksmith workshops in the world would have no chance to intervene. Just listen to Shadow Hung saying again, the competition is approaching. Everything is busy. I need to promote 2 clever disciples to accompany the team. I wonder if the steward has selected the candidates. The steward hurriedly handed over a letter. Jing Tongwen in the crowd appeared confident. He spent 2,002 silvers to secure this spot. And the name in the envelope is indeed Jing Tongwen. Shadow Hung waved his hand and asked Yang Zhong to read this one. But the person making the announcement is Pierce Pei and Regio. Jing Tongwen exclaimed in shock. Instead, he was pulled out by Shadow Hung and slapped on the face. This matter also came to an end. Shadow Hung took Pierce Pei to meet a person. This person is none other than Lord Skystrike Dugu, the Zhaoshan Marquis, the Lord of Shadowglow City. The heir apparent is inside the mansion. He is also preparing to present a document to his father. He accuses Evander Hu of slandering his father. Have you seen the graceful dance moves of the best songstress of East Sea? Daylight's Shadowglow City, Inner City, Forbidden Garden, the first-ranked Zhaoshan Marquis, Skystrike Dugu's residence. The main hall is full of wine forests and meat pools, a scene of seduction. Shadow Hung knelt far away with Pierce Pei. Claimed to be the Department of Reverence manager, Mr. Hung? He says, My lord, a major event occurred in the city last night. Please dismiss the attendants and let me report in detail. When Skystrike Dugu saw Shadow Hung, he seemed quite pleased and said, You've come just in time. I was just saying, this group of girls is utterly incompetent. Master Feng's pavilion is so ingeniously designed, but they all can't handle it well. Their tone is frivolous and not at all like a city lord. Shadow Hang's body stiffened, and her skirt swayed slightly. She seemed to be exercising extreme patience, with even her voice sounding somewhat strained. Skystrike Dugu exclaimed eagerly, Hey, come over here. You can decide on those matters. I don't want to hear about them. Skystrike Dugu then looked towards Pierce Pei behind Shadow Hung. Asked, Who is the person next to you? I don't recognize them at all. Inform my lord, this is disciple Pierce Pei from the Department of Reverence, who witnessed the events of last night. Skystrike Dugu's voice sounded menacing. Anyway, is he an important person? Good. You strip off your clothes now and come over to dance. Or else I'll have him killed. Pierce Pei suddenly looked up. Skystrike Dugu in the pavilion twirled a black beard on his lips, smiling triumphantly. He appeared as if a mischievous child who had won at tricky games, with victory within reach. He seemed ready to dance with joy immediately. Shadow Hang's pretty face turned pale, only biting her lush lips and trembling. Her slender fingers in her sleeves were tightly clenched, the knuckles slightly turning blue. Lord of City is serious. He can say it, and he can do it. Shadow Hung suddenly smiled brightly. My lord just wants to watch the dance. Why kill people? Such unnecessary cruelty. She smiled sweetly. Her tone and expression were all so appealing, like hardened syrup that won't melt. Look, I'll just dance one for you. After that, my lord, will you obediently listen to Little Shadow? Is that okay? Skystrike Dugu was overjoyed and clapped repeatedly. Good. I'll do as Little Shadow wishes, and she will do as I wish. Shadow Hung bent her way sideways, taking off the light purple embroidered shoes and delicate snow-like stockings in turn, revealing a pair of plump and crystal-clear white delicate little feet. They were so tender that there was not a trace of tough skin or rough marks. The toes were neatly tucked, displaying both the round and smoothness of a baby and the tempting curves of a mature lady. Combining innocence and charm, she was indescribably lovely, truly the epitome of youthful beauty. Audience, please don't drool. The whole Echoing Waves Pavilion. itself is a musical instrument. Master Feng had sound-producing mechanisms, like rocks and iron devices in the 4 pavilion columns. The columns were hollow like windpipes. The floor tiles, small tables, lamp posts inside the pavilion, and even the aromatic brain golden beast used for incense were all keys. They were connected by springs to the dance figures at the edge of the pavilion and the outer pool. Once the floor tiles were touched, the pavilion columns would make sounds, indirectly triggering the perpetual motion mechanism of the outer pool, causing the figurines to rotate and dance. I only saw the shadows beneath Heng's skirt entwined. Her slender jade legs danced and bounced gracefully. The graceful lines of her legs were full of elasticity. Her delicate figure kept spinning in the pavilion. The melodious sound of the zither in the pillar was tinkling. The melody was continuous. The music was peaceful and beautiful. The dancing figurines in the pond suddenly came to life, unlike the previous stiffness and intermittence. All the people, boats, carriages, and horses in the pond are spinning rapidly around the pavilion. Musicians nod and play the flute, dancers kick their legs and soar into the sky. Sailing and riding, they appear lifelike. Shadow Heng's clothes all over his body were splashed wet with water. They clung tightly to his exquisite and graceful figure. The snowy white jade legs were reflecting the sparkling ripples of the water. They looked even more bright white than the white veil shadow reflected on the water's surface. The small knees, with a powdery orange hue, peeked out from time to time. Bare feet occasionally skimmed the water surface, adorned with glistening droplets. Like fresh slices of juicy pear, the vlogger could only marvel and exclaim, "Money is truly a blessing." Sky Strike Dugu applauded loudly and praised Leaf. He raised his glass and said, "Well done, well done! Truly my little shadow. Come, let me offer you a toast." Shadow Hung hesitated briefly, but then stepped forward to take the wine cup. But Sky Strike Dugu suddenly pulled Shadow Hung into his arms and reached out to undo his belt. Shadow Hung couldn't resist and hesitated for a moment. Pierce Pay shouted loudly, "Inform the Lord of the city!" Just then, an urgent report from the city patrol office came from outside the hall. When he saw someone dampening his interest, Sky Strike Dugu's face turned dark as he said, "If this is nothing important, I will kill you and the messenger." Report to my lord. General of the Eastern Frontier Rosie Murong has sent an envoy bearing valuable gifts to request an audience. The person is now waiting in the hall. This episode happened to resolve the dilemma for Shadow Hung. Shadow Hung's head spun. Rosie Murong is a senior minister in the imperial court. It's understandable that he would send someone to visit Jiaoshan Marquis, who is also a court official. But why did the master of the Autumn Water Pavilion, who is in charge of the martial world decisive battle, come along? Could it be because of the cursed sword? But the news shouldn't have spread this quickly. Sky Strike Dugu waved his hand. Rosie Murong has a conflict with him. His people do not want to see him. Then let Shadow Hung and Heir Apparent handle this matter. Even if Shadow Hung feels that there is something fishy about it, it's still futile. Shadow Hung called Pierce Pay to the side corridor and spoke slowly. "It was you who intercepted the messenger just now, right? You didn't want others to see me in a sorry state, so you deliberately interrupted the Lord of City to help me out?" Shadow Hung gently patted Pierce Pay's head and said, "You have a good heart. But remember, in the future, don't do it without my permission. Do not interrupt Lord of City in any situation." This time, it was the reputation of General of the Eastern Frontier that saved you. Pierce Pay can't help but wonder if General of the Eastern Frontier is so powerful. The Emperor established 4 frontiers to command respect from all directions, bringing peace to the world. Northern Defender General Stormblade Rand leads the defense of the north border and supervises the construction of the northern city walls. With outstanding military achievements, he is acclaimed as the war god of the present age. General of the Eastern Frontier Rosie Murong commands a large army and stations in the East Sea Province. She is known for her iron fist rule, decisive actions, and swift decision-making. It is said that she can distinguish truth from falsehood and never acts unfairly. General of the Western Frontier Song Han, also known as Tiger General Brody Han's son, excels in using long spears. He leads the Han family's Flying Tiger Cavalry, which is renowned far and wide for its might. General of the Southern Frontier Bhopal, also known as Southern Hill, holds the prestigious position of Frontier Grand Official. With his eloquence, he has secured a high position among the lords of the four frontiers of the world. Among them, General of the Eastern Frontier Rosie Murong is the most difficult to deal with. In all aspects at court, this person constantly creates trouble for Skystrike Dugu. The Emperor initially wanted to appoint Skystrike Dugu as General of Fierce Might, but was persuaded otherwise by a memorial written by Rosie Murong. In the end, the matter was dropped. The envoy of such characters, Shadow Hung, is also not to be underestimated. In the entrance hall, the recommended person is Commissioner for the East Sea Felix Chiron. He said slowly, "This old man is the owner of the Broken Halberd platform in Sinking Sand Valley. The one known as Heavenly Weapon Sage Simon Nandong is the envoy of General of the Eastern Frontier, the renowned Eight Wastelands Blade Victor Chandler." Victor Chandler clasped his hands in a fist and said, "I have long heard of the reputation of the second manager. Today, meeting you in person truly lives up to your stunning fame." Shadow Hung gave a slight bow, her voice clear like a silver bell. "To have the honor of meeting the renowned Professor Chandler from the martial world is truly my pleasure. I presume the mighty warrior carries nothing less than the legendary sword Red Crow Horn that shakes the East Sea. I have long admired Mr. Nandong the Elder as well. Seeing him today truly lives up to his distinguished reputation. His mere presence commands respect." After some pleasantries, Shadow Hung couldn't help but sigh secretly. Unexpectedly, Rosie Murong was able to recruit such distinguished individuals. Victor Chandler stated that he was born in the martial world, so there's no need for official language. I, Chandler, came for the 3 Great Workshops competition this time. If there is any offense, I hope the second manager will not take offense. Victor Chandler smiled slightly, claiming that in the past 10 years, Blue Summit Radiance has won 23 times in the 3 Great Workshops competition, while Red Serpent Hall has won twice. The victor can undertake imperial commissions and obtain wealth from the country. The Blue and Red factions have long dominated the top 2 positions in the 3 Great Workshops competition for this lucrative opportunity. However, it has been tough for Shadowglow City, as they not only fail to benefit from it, but also end up spending money in vain. My general at home is especially known for his sense of justice and compassion. He couldn't bear to see your honorable city being controlled by others. Therefore, this year he sent a memorial to the court, proposing to change the rules of the 3 Great Workshops competition to help the second manager break this situation. Just when Shadow Hung was puzzled, Victor Chandler waved his hand dramatically. For Workshops competition, to resolve this dilemma, we need to bring in fresh blood. This year, the General's Mansion of Eastern Frontier will personally participate in the grand competition. When this statement was made, both Shadow Hung and Heir Apparent were surprised. But Shadow Hung quickly realized that since Rosie Murong had sent someone over, it proved that the Emperor had already approved it. This matter must be delayed so that Victor Chandler cannot make a hasty decision. Just as Shadow Hung was feeling troubled, Pierce Pei made a deep bow. Claiming that a message had arrived from outside the door, the Lord of the City invites all esteemed guests to Unaware, Cloud's Reach Tower for a banquet. Climbing, Unaware, Clouds Rise. Victor Chandler couldn't help but admire the building in front of him. What an Unaware, Clouds Reach Tower Lord of City Dugu really knows how to enjoy. Heir Apparent quickly echoed, "This building was personally designed by our father. It is also the only one in East Sea Province." At that time, Heir Apparent was still thinking about his own private grievances. He thought that the visit of Rosie Murong's messenger would surely ruin his father's mood. "I just need to seize the opportunity to expose the crimes of the one surnamed Hu. Father will surely be furious and punish that scoundrel." When entering the entrance hall, I saw Sky Strike Dugu enjoying himself with hearty drinking. Joy overflowed from his expression and words. Disciples of Moonlit Water Pavilion are also among them. Shadow Hung and Pierce Pei couldn't help but be somewhat surprised. And the scene before them was even more unbelievable for heir apparent. Only to see that Evander, who was actually having a drink and chatting happily with Sky Strike Dugu, they had already become close friends. This scene left everyone at the scene stunned. Heir apparent's belief collapsed even more. Sky Strike Dugu even let heir apparent step forward to call Evander, who uncle. Victor Chandler called someone to bring the gift up. And deeply bowing said, I, Chandler, pay a visit to Lord of City Dugu. These are all gifts General Murong asked me to deliver to Lord of City. Sky Strike Dugu laughed and said, just now brother who said, you are the #1 swordsman of East Sea. This marquis specially came to take a look and see if it's flat or round. Victor Chandler didn't say much either, and then he took a seat to the side. Yi Tassel Huang waved his small hand to greet Pierce Pei. However, Crimson Clouds pretended not to see. Pierce Pei still felt a little embarrassed. She also sensed that the second court master seemed to not want to see her. However, her complexion looked much better. At this time, Shadow Hang's voice, like a silver bell, sounded. Just now, Professor Chandler said, the General's Mansion of Eastern Frontier has obtained the Emperor's permission to participate in the great competition, following the customs of previous competitions. Each of the 3 families will present a weapon, and the winner will be selected based on its form, quality, and spirit. I wonder if the General's Mansion of Eastern Frontier has enough time to craft a weapon. Victor Chandler did not seem to be lying at all. He said, since it's a new situation, there should naturally be a new atmosphere. In the past competitions, the ranking of weapons was judged by individuals, making it easy to be secretly manipulated. This was most unfair to you all, so the general made a proposal. Change the rules to have 1 representative from each of the 4 families sent out. They will compete using their own weapons to determine the winner. If the weapon is destroyed, it naturally results in defeat. If the wielder of the weapon unfortunately dies, it also counts as a defeat. The competition will take place at Autumn Water Pavilion, with Mr. Simon Nangong, also known as Heavenly Eye, presiding over and judging the competition. Everyone is welcome to witness the event. Shadow Hung has also confirmed that the representative sent by the General's Mansion of Eastern Frontier is indeed Victor Chandler. Crimson Clouds realized this on the side. Victor Chandler is known as the top swordsman of the East Sea. The red crow horn he uses is also a rare treasure. These rules are clearly tailor-made for him. Victor Chandler was full of high spirits. He claimed that even a general would not want to take unfair advantage. He decided to postpone the competition event for a year. Your honorable city can prepare with peace of mind. See you next year on the 3rd day of the 3rd month to witness the true competition. Sky Strike Dugu suddenly slammed the table. You, Rosie Murong, like to worry. Why don't you go and organize the 3 great workshops competition, talking on and on. The wine tastes terrible now. Old Quan, bring some appetizers to me. Coffin sheep is served. The taste of this lamb has amazed everyone. It makes people unable to help but enjoy a feast. But at this moment, Silly Donkey stood woodenly in front of the hall. It refused to back down. The man, Autumn Water Pavilion, actually pressed his own wife into a wager? Silly Donkey stood motionless in place at this moment. Eyes stared fixedly at Victor Chandler without blinking. Sky Strike Dugu asked, where did this kid come from? Is he from your kitchen? The kitchen assistant was so scared that he quickly knelt down to apologize, claiming that this is a new helper in the kitchen named Silly Donkey. He is a deaf-mute person who can only communicate through lip reading and writing. I will take him away now. Sky Strike Dugu became interested upon hearing about lip reading. He then asked, were you born being called Silly Donkey? Do you have another name? Silly Donkey kept drawing with both hands, but couldn't say a word. On the side, Crimson Clouds recognized this as a sign language technique called Daoxian crossing, which he had learned as a child following the army. He had some superficial knowledge from studying with the military officers in the camp, but it might not be enough for translating sign language. Just as Skystrike Dugu scratched his head, Pierce Pei actually took the initiative to step forward, claiming to be a little person's sister. Born unable to hear, can I give it a try? Crimson Clouds and Shadow Hung both had a trace of compassion at this time. After several conversations, Pierce Pei said, Silly Donkey said his first and last name have been taken by a villain. Upon hearing this, Skystrike Dugu was very curious and ordered him to tell the whole story. Originally, Silly Donkey was born in the north. His father was kind, and his older brother was loving in the martial arts family. At the age of 10, in the harsh winter, the father of the family found a young man at the foot of the mountain. The man claimed to be from the south, and had suffered a robbery by bandits. The father took pity on him, and adopted him as his son. Shortly after, the father passed away. The adopted brother helped his eldest brother manage the family business. He was very shrewd and capable. One day, he said he had been away from his hometown for many years, and wished to return to pay respects to their ancestors. The eldest brother gladly agreed, and gave him a large sum of money. When the villagers saw this, they said he must have taken the money, and would not return. However, to their surprise, not only did he come back after more than half a year, but he also earned even more gold and silver. In addition, he brought back a beautiful girl named Miss Celeste Snow. He said she was a distant relative who had been wandering outside. The eldest brother was very fond of Miss Celeste Snow. Shortly afterwards, he married her. After getting married, Miss Celeste Snow said a man's ambition lies in traveling far and wide. How could he live his life just clinging to ancestral property? The eldest brother then began going out to do business, often gone for several months at a time. Miss Celeste Snow was exceptionally kind to Silly Donkey. But Silly Donkey discovered something. She always sneaks out at night. One night, the Silly Donkey finally followed Miss Celeste Snow. It turns out that Miss Celeste Snow and his righteous brother came to the bone relic land behind the mountain. They dug through the graves one by one from new to old, clearly looking for something in the tombs. Judging from the situation that night, it is likely that they have found it already. Silly Donkey was very scared. Once his elder brother returned, he immediately told him about the matter. Unexpectedly, those two men confessed without hesitation. The righteous brother even swaggered off with his sister-in-law Miss Celeste Snow. Elder brother was deeply shocked and thought the matter had ended there. Unexpectedly, a year later. However, people from the Autumn Water Pavilion suddenly arrived at the mountain gate. They said someone challenged Elder Silly Donkey to a duel. The challenger turned out to be the adopted brother who had left before. Because the Autumn Water Pavilion desires a battle with Silly Donkey, they must offer an item of equivalent value as payment. And the item that your righteous brother will wager turns out to be Miss Celeste Snow. This woman is so shameless. Silly Donkey's eldest brother is willing to duel with Miss Celeste Snow. Normally, the eldest brother has been practicing martial arts since childhood. With a solid foundation, he should not lose to Nas. Unexpectedly, Nas became more skilled as the fight went on. After 100 moves, he even used the same sword technique as the eldest brother. In the end, he narrowly defeated the eldest brother in a single move. The treasured sword and Miss Celeste Snow were both lost. Since then, the eldest brother became even more silent and reserved. He no longer attended to the family business, and even drove away the household servants. He was determined to focus solely on honing his martial skills and winning back the family heirloom sword. 6 months later, the eldest brother once again ascended to Autumn Water Pavilion to challenge that person with the family property as collateral. This time, after exchanging 200 moves, the victor was finally decided. Unfortunately, the eldest brother lost again. At this point, Silly Donkey and the eldest brother had almost lost everything, with only the ancestral tablets and the family genealogy left. In the following year, the eldest brother's swordsmanship became increasingly exquisite. The more he refined it, the more fierce it became, making him almost unbeatable in the East Sea. This time, he sealed the sole remaining family genealogy and ancestral tablet. Once again, he prepared to battle with Nasio at the Autumn Water Pavilion. But the most unexpected thing was that, before the decisive battle this time, Celeste Snow suddenly appeared at the Autumn Water Pavilion. Quietly, she said to her big brother, "Husband, don't you know yet? During the days when you were out doing business, besides your sworn brother, Snow had other men around her. The one who seduced me night after night was none other than your dear little brother." After hearing this, the big brother's eyes turned red, and his mind was in turmoil. "In the end, I lost. My life is coming to an end." At the brink of death, the big brother said to Silly Donkey, "That guy is scheming. In fact, he is trying to find the martial arts skill created by our ancestors, the 7 divine tiger arts. He has already found 6 parts. The last one, Ultimate Tiger Zen Strike, is the one he has not yet obtained. He probably thinks there will be clues in the genealogy or memorial tablet. But in fact, there is nothing there. As long as he can't find the last part, you will be safe." After the big brother's death, Silly Donkey's sworn brother has become the legitimate successor of the family. He sent people to track Silly Donkey in order to get the last volume of the Divine Book. With no gains, they subjected him to severe torture and interrogation. Afraid that Silly Donkey would reveal the matter, they used a branding iron and hot coals to destroy his hands, making it impossible for him to write again. Silly Donkey couldn't bear the torment. Finally, one day, he seized the opportunity to escape. Unfortunately, he was seriously injured and passed out. He thought he would end up as a corpse in the wilderness. But he was unexpectedly saved by a retired old swordsman and his granddaughter. They took in Silly Donkey, and that was a peaceful period of time for him. Let Silly Donkey forget about hatred. Let Silly Donkey believe in people like him. It can forget everything and start anew. But the good times didn't last long. That person's evil slave found Silly Donkey. In front of Silly Donkey, all the grievances were vented on the father and son for 3 days and 3 nights. The story is horrifying, and Skystrike Dugu is furious. And in front of everyone's eyes, Silly Donkey exposed the mastermind behind all this. It was Victor Chandler on the Grand Hall. I didn't expect the chivalrous Victor Chandler to be such a scumbag. On the throne room, Silly Donkey pointed out that this murderer usurping my name is tonight's honored guest, Victor Chandler. And Silly Donkey, also known as Skycy Chandler, is originally the 14th son of the Tiger King Paulona family Chandler. I never expected Victor Chandler to remain unfazed at this moment. He shamelessly said, "Is Shadowglow City a place that allows these servants to talk nonsense? It's simply preposterous." I saw Silly Donkey slowly take out a secret book from his pocket, presented it to Skystrike Dugu. And this manual is the ultimate Tiger Zen strike that Victor Chandler has been longing for. Skystrike Dugu had a playful expression on his face as he held the manual and said with a smile, "Professor Chandler, what do you think?" Victor Chandler still pretended to be calm and said, "Some scammers in martial world often use some things to show off and deceive. Lord of City, please don't take it seriously." Don't underestimate Skystrike Dugu, who usually likes to have fun. But the Lord of the City must be very cunning. I saw him pick up a book in a huff and said, "Since he is a swindler in the martial world, this book must be fake too, so let's burn it." He immediately threw the book towards the wick. Victor Chandler quickly stopped this action. Everything is done by himself. But Skystrike Dugu did not kill off insistently and slowly said, "Silly Donkey, although you used this book to blackmail Professor Chandler today, what you are seeking is not beyond this book. He, Victor Chandler, is still Victor Chandler. Let's do this. I'll arrange a meeting for you. On the 3rd of March next year, you will have a showdown with him at Autumn Water Pavilion. Show all the heroes of the world the truth by defeating him. The astute Shadow Hung naturally discerned the cleverness of this move. If this Victor Chandler agrees, then during the 4 Great Workshops competition, he will have no choice but to represent the General's Mansion of Eastern Frontier in battle. Just at this moment, Crimson Clouds raised a question, claiming to have heard that Professor Chandler carries the 2 slaves of death and terror with him if what Silly Donkey said is true. So what happened to the terror slave that was following him? The usually stiff Silly Donkey unexpectedly showed a hint of excitement at this moment. He was seen wiping his neck, indicating to everyone that Terror Slave had been killed by him. Silly Donkey said with strokes, "God has given me a weapon. I successfully killed that evil slave. I don't want to wait until next year. I want revenge now." Just as the words fell, Silly Donkey kicked open the box. In front of everyone appeared an object about the size of a vine leaf, shaped like a bronze shield. The body was covered with ancient bronze patterns of mythical beasts. It also resembles the crystal turtle shell. There are 4 pairs of claw-shaped, 3-jointed abdomen on each side. The joints vaguely reveal the springs. It's like a huge bronze-cast spider. A fine groove runs through the center of the copper spider. It seems to be holding something like a blade. The part resembling a knife handle is covered with spikes. From a distance, it does look like half of a crab leg, quite fierce. This ominous object turns out to be a cursed sword as well.